Welcome everyone. This is the MasterClass. My name is Patricknazareth. I have around 30 years of experience in teaching and I would like to help dispel your doubts should you have any. Today we study the lesson Tomorrow, written by Joseph Conrad. Conrad was born in 1857 and died in 1924. He was born in Poland. He was a British novelist who became one of the greatest writers in the English language. Prior to becoming a writer, he worked as a sailor, and his experiences at sea provided a lot of material for his many works. What did he write on? Often he wrote on isolation, moral ambiguity, and the psychological effects of colonialism and modern life. Some of his works include Heart of Darkness, Lord Jim, and Nostromo. Conrad is known for his complex psychological portraits, his mastery of English, in spite of the fact that it was only his third language, and his ability to create atmosphere and mood. Sometimes an idea can consume so much of your existence you forget even to live. This is the story of Captain Hagberd. We meet him in the seaport of Colebrook. He was not a native of that place. He had come because somebody had written him a letter informing him that his son was last seen there. He bought up a plot of land, built a pair of yellow cottages. He lived in one and he gave the other out on rent to a retired blind boat builder and the daughter of Miss Bessie. These cottages had one wall in common and they shared a line of iron railings dividing their front garden while a wooden fence divided the back garden. Miss Bessie was allowed to hang her clothes on that fence to dry. The captain told her to put up a clothesline. He said that it would rot the wood, but she wouldn't listen. She found the time to do a little gardening, and on the opposite side of the fence, the captain's, it would be overgrown, tall grass, weeds. The captain chose to wear a suit made of canvas. 7 years ago, Captain Hagberd had happened to go out for a drink, and while he was in the bar, he met the barber. The barber asked him, "Shave, when are you going to give me your custom?" And he replied, "Next month." And then he bought a little bit of tobacco and he left. The barber burst out laughing. A gentleman sitting next to him looked at him and the barber explained. He said, "This man is waiting for his son. He came here 3 years back. At that time, he simply got off the train, went all around the neighborhood, went all around the countryside, asking almost everyone whether they had seen his son. The boy had run away from the house and gone to sea. That two sailors had come to Colebrook. But the way he described his son as a young boy of 14, obviously no one could recognize him. And when they said that they did not know whether his son had come or not, the captain got offended. And slowly over a period of time, he stopped asking questions. But he settled down there. 7 years ago, remember, the barber's beard turned grey. The old man's beard turned white. His wife had just died 3 years back and he was looking for his son whom he couldn't find. Maybe he went a little bit mad. So the barber finds it funny. Of all the places in the United Kingdom, why settle on a place called Colebrook? Why would he come here in the first place? But it was so catching, this hunt for the sailor son of Captain Hagberd, that even the barber, when he found himself cutting a stranger's beard, wondered to himself, is it possible that this is the son the old man is looking for? Over time, the captain had built a very bad reputation with the townspeople. He had become a miser. He mumbled and muttered when he was forced to pay money for anything. He bought the poorest cuts of meat that he could get. And of course, he was running around in a suit of canvas. The townsfolk started ignoring him, and the captain himself took to going out to town less and less. He just went when he had to. His only friend at that time was Bessie. He used to speak to her, sometimes winking at her. First, she had got upset, but then she realized these winks were just a quirk of his makeup. He didn't mean anything by it. And they used to discuss everything, his hopes for the future. Captain Hagberd told her something about his background. His father had gone bankrupt and apprenticed him to a coastal skipper. He hated the sea. In fact, he considered going to sea the equivalent of going to jail. He did not understand why somebody would go into a job which would take you away from your house for months at a time. So when his wife's uncle left them some money and he was able to buy a house, the first thing he did was quit his job as a boat captain. He had never gone more than 14 days or out of sight of land. He used to describe to Bessie how everything that he was doing was for Harry and that one day this would all be hers also because he expected them to marry. He used to buy things to set up in the house. He never used to open them because for him it was his son Harry's right. His housework he used to do himself. He never used to allow anybody inside his house, not even Bessie. She used to listen to him, she used to humor him. Suddenly they would be hearing a howling. Why was the father shouting so much? He had taken blind and he had made himself so dependent on his daughter that he couldn't be left alone. He always said how rich he was and that he was able to afford anything he wanted. Captain Hagberd couldn't understand why he didn't get a servant to look after him. But he told Bessie, don't worry, when my son comes he will marry you and take you away from all this. Carvel used to ensure that she could never have any free time to herself. He used to keep up shouting and screaming until she came to look after him, to take him for a walk, to see to his needs. In the meantime, Captain Hagberd used to advertise in the Sunday papers. And Bessie used to tell him, why? You already know he's coming back to Colebrook. There is no need for you to advertise. No, you'll save your money. The captain was a creature of habit. He didn't want to stop advertising. But what he did do was stop offering a reward because according to him, he already knew that Harry would be coming back to Colebrook. Captain Hagberd had got it into his head that tomorrow would be the day his son would come home. Bessie did not want to upset the old man, but she tried to be a little practical and she mentioned perhaps he can't come back. And that upset him. Why? Do you think he would have died? Do you think something would have happened to him? And then she got frightened because it was almost as if he appeared to go mad. She stopped telling him anything after that because she realized he was holding on to his sanity just with that one hope that his son would return. So the days passed. Hagberd always telling Bessie that how he would make his son marry her when he came back and that they would live a beautiful life together in the cottage he had built for them and the amount of stuff he had bought for them. The captain was a person who never got upset, but when he did, it was just because somebody refused to listen to him or did not agree with what he thought about his son. Then, in Bessie's words, he had something that she called tantrums, where he used to throw his spade into the ground and rush around muttering and grumbling. But over the years, she learned to handle both her father as well as Captain Hagberd. Every Monday, she used to give the old man his rent. He used to clutch it in glee and go out to make the small purchases which he wanted to do. And of course, the advertisements he wanted to put in the paper. One day, it just so happened that a man came walking up to Hagberd and asked him, what are you waiting for? Are you waiting for your son? And the old man said, yes, I am. In fact, he's going to come tomorrow. This man said, I think I have some news about your son. If you allow me to come in, I will tell you about him. But the old man lost his temper. He went into one of his tantrums and he rushed away from the boy and locked himself up into his house, went to the second floor and he began muttering and grumbling at the top of his voice. Hearing all the commotion, Bessie came out and she spoke to the man, and the man revealed his identity to her. He was Harry Hagberd, the son the old man had been waiting for, and he was puzzled. Who is this man who is coming tomorrow, who's supposed to be taking my place? So Bessie explained to him that no, it's nothing like that. This man, your father, has got into the habit of saying everything tomorrow. Actually, whenever you come for him, it is tomorrow. The boy found this funny, but he went to meet his father. Instead of welcoming him, the father in his tantrum threw a shovel at him, which narrowly missed hitting him on his head and instead grazed his shoulder. Harry came back. Bessie told him, don't worry, we will sit around and talk to your father, and within a week we will bring him around. Then she set to explaining to him what the father wanted from him. Harry got very agitated, very angry. Why? He thinks that he can tie me down. He thinks that I would like to stay the way he stays on land. He thinks I would like to get married. No, that is the very reason why I ran away to become a sailor. I want to wander here and there. I want to have no ties. I want to have no responsibilities. I want to be a free person. I will not be tied down to a home. I will not be tied down to a wife. And Bessie tries her level best to make him understand. Remember, she is fighting for her own future here. But Harry will not be swayed. He asks her whether she has some money, and she does. So she gives it to him. He lifts her off the floor while he kisses her passionately. But then he sets her down and he leaves. She calls after him again and again, but he is gone. The old man calls out to her, has he gone? And she said, yes. And he's like, don't worry. That person was not the person that we have been waiting for. Harry will definitely come tomorrow. And Bessie doesn't know what to say. Harry has come and Harry has gone, taking her dreams, her money along with him. She is more heartbroken than ever before because she realizes she is trapped into something which she will never be able to break. The reality of looking after her father, the reality of Captain Hagberd always telling her that his son will come home tomorrow. Who are the characters in this story then? We have Captain Hagberd, a retired coastal sailor, probably in his 60s or 70s. He is driven to almost near madness by grief and hope. He always talks about tomorrow when he expects his son to come home. Bessie, she's a woman, probably in her late 20s or early 30s. She cares for her abusive blind father and has spent many years listening kindly to Captain Hagberd. She's gentle and patient, but also deeply unhappy and unfulfilled. Harry Hagberd, 31 years old, resembles his father physically, but is very different in temperament. He's charming, but he's selfish. He's unable to settle down anywhere. Old Cowell, Bessie's blind father, a former boat builder who has become bitter and tyrannical, deliberately making himself helpless in order to control Bessie even better. Where are the settings then? Probably in 19th century England, specifically the seaport town of Colebrook, which is described as being dreary and isolated. In Colebrook, specifically, the action is set in the cottages, two small, ugly yellow brick buildings which share a common wall, and gardens separated by an iron railing in the front and a wooden fence in the back. The literary devices used here: symbolism. The sea could represent freedom and separation. The fence between the Cowells and Captain Hagberd represents the barriers that people have between themselves. Captain Hagberd's canvas suit represents his disconnect from normal society. Irony? The greatest irony is when the son finally returns. Rather than fulfill his father's dreams, in a way it destroys them. Foreshadowing. When Harry is talking to Bessie, he talks, for example, about the Gambusinos, who leave their houses, who are restless gold prospectors, looking always for money for the next big strike. It shows us about his inability to stay back. Metaphor. Bessie's life is described as a stuffy little inferno, and when the story ends, she is feeling lost in a stony country. Characterization through dialogue. Each character has a definitive speech pattern. Captain Hagberd repeats himself again and again. Tomorrow, tomorrow my son will come. Harry has got a casual swagger about himself, very sure, very confident in himself. Old Cowell constantly repeating his demands in a brutal fashion. There is a setting as mood. The gloomy seaside town. It shows us the characters' trapped emotional states. The themes over here: hope versus reality. Hope can become destructive when we are disconnected from the reality. Just like Captain Hagberd's hope keeps him alive, but also keeps him in a state of delusion. There is isolation and loneliness. Each character is isolated by something or the other. Captain Hagberd is isolated by his madness, Bessie by her duties, Harry by his restless nature, and old Cowell by his blindness and bitterness. Dreams versus duty. There is always a conflict between personal desires and social obligations which runs throughout the story, particularly when you look at Bessie. The sea as a symbol. The sea represents both freedom and destruction. It calls out to Harry, but is also the main reason why the family becomes separated. Time and waiting. The story examines how waiting can become a trap, with the word tomorrow representing both hope and endless deferral. Tomorrow, as we all know, never comes. That's the end of the lesson there for you. I do hope I have been of help. If I have, do remember to like, subscribe, and share. Remember, there might be others who would be requiring our help. Thank you so much for watching.